Hello, you gorgeous guys, gals, and non-binary pals. This is Notes on the Spectrum with Isaac Berlyn. I'm Isaac, so let's get started. Today, I'm very honored to be able to talk to Bernadette Smith, who is an autism mom, wife, businesswoman, and the director of community and corporate outreach at Sounds of Autism. Bernadette, how you doing today?
I am fabulous, Isaac. I'm just grateful for you having me today, and I'm excited to talk to you and share more.
Me too. So I've been in contact with Bernadette for the last few months. I think since like last November. So it's been a handful, but I mean, honestly, I am just I love what I've seen you do and accomplish along with Cricket and this organization. And like I, this is National Women's Month, and you are truly a woman of inspiration. So I just wanted to
Thank
start by
you.
saying thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right, so tell me more about what you do here at Sounds of Autism.
Well, as the director of community and corporate outreach for Sounds of Autism, I network with as many community leaders, service providers that I can reach. Prior to COVID, I was out and trying to make as many community meetings as possible because that's where you're going to find your leaders that really care about their community, about every community, not just whatever it is that they're specializing in, but they're looking to help everyone to help bridge those gaps. And that's what I do is help bridge those gaps by developing relationships and just making sure that I get to know as many people as possible here in the West Valley.
Mhm.
I also host meetings too. We facilitate meetings, and I started facilitating meetings before COVID at the YMCA in partnership with YMCA.
Oh,
And
really?
that was really neat because we would have service providers, community leaders, families come and join us, and then COVID hit. And it's
Mm.
like, how are we going to raise awareness now? And fortunately, we had people following us like Aurora Behavioral Health and Child and Family Resources. And because they were following us and just really supporting us, we actually reached out to them and asked them if they would help us to facilitate online virtual community workshops. And they now host along with us our weekly meetings that we
Oh,
have.
that's so
We have
cool.
it is very cool because now we give our guests, whether they're families, community service providers, or what have you, direct connection and a direct way to connect with these individuals that are experts and specialists.
Yeah.
I am a mom of autism, and I'm not necessarily an expert or a specialist or certified in teaching, but I am certified in my girl. I am an expert in my girl. So I've been living life on the spectrum for 10 years now. So I get it. As a mom, I get it. And that's what is so great that we do get to connect with these individuals directly through our
Yeah.
virtual meetings. It's neat.
And something that like just came to me um, is having family members or people that are looking for knowledge attend these meetings, and then being able to put a face and a voice to these experts and have like a person of contact, and also like a setting where they can ask questions outside of going to the hospital, and that can be intimidating in itself. And I think that's fantastic. It like just gives that more intimate setting, and like just person to person, and like at the end of the day we're just people trying to help people, and so that's great.
Yeah, and what really is neat is for so many, the pandemic was very different for everybody. The pandemic was difficult, everyone. But for us, it's had its challenges, but it's also had its blessings. Like now that we're doing virtual, we actually are able to reach so many more families and people because
I
now
bet. Yeah.
families don't have to pack up their kids and go to a meeting and figure out what they're going to do with their child during the meeting to try and keep them quiet, or
Hmm.
so now we get to do virtual, and they can join us in the comfort of their own home, which is really fantastic. And working with Cricket, the founder of Sounds of Autism, it is amazing. Her vision for what we are doing and are gonna do is just it's there's no words for it. I mean, I could say exciting,
Yeah, but it's like
but
monumental. That's the one that came to mind for me.
words,
Yeah.
and I would have to agree with you. It is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. She's amazing. So I feel very fortunate and blessed to be doing what I'm doing as a community corporate outreach. And I
It's
love
awesome.
what I do. I love what I do.
And that is all what we all hope for, is to be able to,
Right?
yep, I love what we do. So how did you start with SOA? How did you get involved? How
You
did this
know,
whole journey begin?
I love sharing this story because I really feel like God has orchestrated so many things in my life, even right down to adopting Isabella, and it was meant to be. But I'm a Legal Shield associate. I actually help families gain access to, it's a membership, it's a 46-year-old company, and this isn't about Legal Shield.
Hmm.
But what's really neat is I help families. I've always loved helping families, and I was helping families learn more about how to gain access to their rights because we don't know unless I mean we don't know. I mean, when
Right.
you want to know something legal, what do? You ask your friend, you go to Google. But now with this membership, I could help people. So there was a show for or an exhibit, a vendor's exhibit at Dave and Buster's where
Okay.
Cricket worked. And so Cricket is the sales manager there. And so I didn't want to go to this event, but I knew all my associates were going to be there and I needed to show face. And so I said, okay, I was being lazy. I'm going to go. And again, it was totally God because my family followed me there. And Isabella and my husband showed up, and Isabella was talking to Cricket. And Isabella has always, she doesn't have discernment for personal space. And so she
Okay.
was in Cricket's personal space. She was in her bubble, up in her face, talking to her. And this was 3 years ago. So she was 7 at the time. And so I have always found a way to share with families, people, any and everybody, no matter where I go, that Isabella's on the spectrum because I know how prevalent autism is or any type of other ability.
Hmm.
That's what I like to call it instead of a disability. But so I said to Cricket, while Isabella's talking to her, I said, she's on the spectrum. And she goes, oh, I know. And I was floored. I'm like, how do you
How do you
know?
know
I need to
this?
know.
Yeah.
How do you know? And she says, well, my son's on the spectrum. And I said, well, I'm going to start a support group and I'd love for you to join us. She says, well, you let me know when you do that because I'm the founder of Sounds of Autism and I'd love to help you. And that, do you know that
Oh,
story, Isaac? Have we shared
no,
that story
no,
with you?
this is the
Okay.
first time. This is great.
So this, it's awesome. So that said, when I told her that and she says, I'd love to help you, I kept it in my pocket in the back of my mind. And Isabella was just in first grade at the time. And we really didn't need any services or assistance at that time.
Hmm.
We hadn't had to go outside of the school. She had an IEP, which is an individual education plan.
Right.
And so we were all good. We were good when I met Cricket, but I knew I wanted to start a group. So fast forward 6 months later, Isabella started having challenges in second grade. This is where I've learned that children at that time in their life start to exhibit a desire to have independence and this is actually the grade where they start to teach children how to be more responsible because they're expected to take charge of their lessons
Right.
and take notes and things of this sort. But Isabella's desire and ability to do that came through differently for her. It started to come out in her behaviors because she wasn't getting the support she needed. And
Mm.
so, even though she was a straight A student, made honor roll, her behaviors were now starting to affect her ability to learn and those around her.
Okay.
So, and because I wasn't getting that support and I was starting to feel frustrated once again, like I did when she was in preschool before we got support, I said, okay, it's time. I got to pick up that phone, call Cricket and see what we can do. And that's how I know that's a long story, but you got to have all that background
Oh
to
yeah.
know that it was totally meant to be. And so that's how I met Cricket. I had met her in March, actually 3 years ago, March 7th. And it was 6 months later when school started. I said, okay, let's do it. I can't take this anymore. I can't imagine how many more families are out there that need help, don't know what to do, maybe even speak Spanish and feel intimidated to even go to their school administration and ask for help. Here, I'm an assertive mommy and I'm getting kickback. What about those parents who don't even
Hmm.
know what to do? So that's why I do what I do.
Yeah. No, I that was the first time that I've heard that story, and that's I loved it. I honestly thought that you had been working at Sounds of Autism longer than just 3 years. Like that's you're so like just established and but I something I typed down was like feeling frustrated, like I'm sure that sensation and thought is prevalent throughout the community, and I'm sure there's so many parents that just feel that and like they don't know what to do. And like that is what's so big about what we're trying to do here, and what you've done is just spread awareness that programs are out there, the help is out there. And like you're being the solution to a problem that you had, and it's going to be a solution to other people. And I love that. That is awesome. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Isaac, I'm so glad to be having this interview with you because you bring up a very, very important point. I'm, like I said, a more mature mommy. I'm an assertive mommy. I only have one child. I knew at birth of the possibility of something, didn't know what, but we were ready for it. What about those families that aren't ready for it?
Yeah.
And still to date, I still get frustrated because my girl needs constant redirection. And now with online schooling, I mean, like I told you before we started, I have a screen across my table where I can see what she's doing because I I really need to take a step back and let her do her own thing so that she develops her own thought processes and she reaches her full capacity and potential.
Hmm.
But she still needs me to help guide her. So frustration, it's a never ending thing. And it's just something we as parents, well, I mean, even as a parent with a neurodiverse child, we all get frustrated. But with a child on the spectrum, it's constant, it's continual. We're always concerned. We got to watch this, we got to watch that. We got to, instead of being one step ahead, we have to be two steps ahead. So that's why I share as openly as possible. Like I told you in the beginning, I try to let everybody know my girl's on the spectrum because there is no doubt I meet somebody who has a grandchild, a cousin, a daughter with a son. I mean, you just don't know who you can help just by
Yeah.
sharing.
I also think that it's important because I feel that it helps remove the negative stigma of autism, where you're not ashamed, you're not trying to hide it, because she's your daughter, she's her own individual, and she's beautiful. Like there's nothing wrong. And I feel like a lot of, again, I am so ignorant, um, and this is just my opinion, but I think that there's a lot of negative stigma that causes families not to reach out, to not get tested, to not seek the education to make their lives and their children's lives better. And like you just being very open, and a lot of the people that I've met so far is just there, it's we are the change that is needed, and we are the change that's going to make things better. And I I'm still floored, and it's I that I'm a part of this. Like it's weird to me that I get to talk to such an amazing person like yourself and the other people I've talked to in the past, and I get to learn and hear your stories and experiences, and then I get to share it. I think it's amazing. I
You know
digress.
what? No, 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 you're not digressing. And I'll tell you why, because I'm still in awe that I get to be part of this journey and just to be able to help families because you said just to decrease that stigma. That is my goal as a parent is to decrease that stigma because there are what families don't understand. And I want to share this with you because I think it's really important is for me as an adoptive mommy, um, when we adopted Isabella, I think it's different for us versus a biological parent. And the reason why I think that is because I think when a biological parent has a child that has a different ability and not normal, like, first of all, who says what normal is?
Right.
But I mean, seriously, but when they have a child that they think is not normal or different, I think there's a possibility that they feel something's wrong with them, or
Mm.
they did something wrong, or they could have done something better, and it's like, guess what? It's not the end of the world. It's just the beginning of a different journey. And you
Oh,
just
I
have
love
to
that.
look at it. But isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I have chills all over because it's so true. It's just the beginning of a different journey. Our children just learn differently. And so that's why it's critical that we have to put those supports in place. We have to study all our children to learn what makes them tick because they all tick differently.
Mhm.
And one child with autism is one child with autism because there is no face to autism. You can't look at somebody and say, oh, I think now as a mommy of autism, I actually can hear when a child's on the spectrum, or I can look at a child and see their different, just the way they move or their mannerisms. And I can sometimes tell, many times really. But for typical society, autism doesn't have a face like different types of physical
Right.
abilities.
Yeah. And I think that's just, I mean, on a broader spectrum, because sorry, I'm
You're
trying to
fine.
go into, the mental health field and hopefully be a clinical psychologist. And like the brain and the mind is the one thing that humans treat that we don't, like the doctors don't actually see like what's wrong with it. Like they don't do images of the brain. And like the studies have been progressing since then, a lot with like concussion research, to see damage and how that affects behavior. But yeah, I think that stems out further, to just mental health and in a broad spect.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So speaking of Isabella, what I'm just curious, like what does she do for fun? Does she have any hobbies? What is
Oh
she
my
into?
gosh. Isabella is she is so talented. I don't just say that because she's my girl. I say that because it's really neat to see her mind develop and think outside the box. So many friends of mine tell me, oh my God, she doesn't think like a normal 10-year-old. I said, no, she does not think. She's
Mhm.
going to ask you questions that you wouldn't think she'd ask you, but she loves to sing. She loves to draw. When she was little, sorry about the doggy.
Mhm.
I might
Mhm.
have to let her out and pause you for a minute. But one of the things about Isabella when she was really little, she used to script The Lion King.
Oh,
Her and my
really?
husband, her and my husband would act out The Lion King. He would be Mufasa, and she's, us.
And
Oh man,
Nala, is that the
no,
mother?
is it Simba?
Oh, Simba.
Simba.
Yeah, yeah,
It's been a while. She's 10 now, so we haven't watched her in a while.
yeah.
She's watching other things. But yeah, no, but her and my husband would act out the Lion King. He would go on, remember the part where he dies,
Hmm.
and he's falling, and then the afterwards where where Simba's crying, and but she would do it word for word.
Wow.
When she would also act out Bambi, when Bambi gets on the ice and slides across the ice with Thumper,
Hmm.
she would slide across the floor and spin in circles, and
Oh, that's great.
but so she's very talented, but that said, she still doesn't tie her own shoes. She still doesn't know how to ride a bike. My baby girl, if I think a lot about it, it'll make me cry, but she doesn't do cartwheels like the other girls yet. And she's dying to do cartwheels. And then me as an overprotective mommy at times, she's double jointed in her arms.
Mm.
So I'm afraid when she tries cartwheels that she's going to, snap the arm.
Right.
I just think of that because we actually went to a jumping zone where they have trampolines.
Okay.
And when she was really little, she was maybe 2, and she ran up the side of a trampoline and fell. Because it's on the side of a wall, right? You run up the
Hmm.
trampoline and she falls over. But when she fell, she braced herself with her arm, and I saw her arm go a little bit more. What's the word? Overextend.
Right.
She overextended, and at that time, I didn't realize she was double jointed.
Ooh, that
And
must
so
have
when,
freaked you out.
oh my God, you have, yeah, let's just say that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I said, okay, no more trampolines. We're not doing trampolines anymore. That's it. So when she would get invited to parties to go jump at trampolines, I'm like, yeah, sorry, we can't go.
Mm.
Because I can't tell her don't jump there or don't jump here, right?
Right.
So, but there's, so my point being is that she's very talented, but there's still some other things that she can't do. And that's why I say it's not the end of the world.
Right.
It's just a different
Different
beginning.
journey.
It's a
Yeah.
different journey. Yeah, okay, so she can't tie her shoes. We'll get slip-on shoes if we have to down
Yeah,
the
there we
road.
go.
you know but she wants to do it. She definitely wants to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure with, your guidance and support from your family that, she can, uh, I guess, isn't that part of the like practicing over and over and then,
That's exactly what it is, Isaac. And I'm glad you brought that up because it is practicing. It's actually, as a more mature mom, when we adopted Isabella, we knew that there was a potentiality of something, but I didn't know what.
Mm.
And when we, uh, I would try to have a baby for 17 years, and I couldn't get pregnant.
Oh.
And so I always thought, I didn't cry profusely over it, but I did cry. Like when I'd be sitting in church, I'd be wondering why. I would just be like, God, I just want to know why. They'd
Yeah.
announce somebody's having a baby. They'd announce somebody's pregnant. They'd announce there's a baby shower, and tears would just start rolling down my eyes. And I just wanted to know why. And the greatest thing, Isaac, is now I know why. It's because God gave me Isabella so that I could help families. And I honestly believe that that's the way it was supposed to happen. When I'm from California and
Okay.
moved to Arizona 11 years ago. And I hadn't seen one of my friends from church in 8 months. And we weren't even real close. But what we did have in common, because we had just met,
Okay.
because we had just moved to a different area at the time before moving to Arizona. But what we did have in common besides God was she was going through in vitro and I was going through in vitro.
Oh.
She got pregnant in Italy. I did not get pregnant in California. And so she always had me on her heart. And Jennifer and Francisco Vallafoco, I'll never forget, she calls us one day and she tells me, "Hi, Bernadette, how are you?" I said, "Hey, Jennifer, I haven't talked to you in so long. What's going on?" She's all, "Well, I'm just calling to let you know that somebody wants to give you their baby."
Oh.
Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do they want? I mean, nobody just gives a baby because if they
Right.
think they're going to get something out of it, that's black market selling baby. You can't do that. I mean,
Right.
right? So she says, "No, it's right. Amazing." She says, "No, they just want a Christian mommy and daddy to raise their baby." And we literally had a little girl in 4 months. God's like, "Okay, you're ready. Here's a baby." And, we had just remodeled one of our offices into a guest/baby room, maybe, hopefully.
Okay.
And we didn't know what God
Yeah.
had planned. I mean, I did in vitro 4 times and I didn't get pregnant. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just hopeful still back then. And, I honestly believe. And when we said yes, knowing there was the potential of a delay because we knew that the birth mom had some type of a delay, and she's just as amazing as her daughter. We
Mm-hmm.
actually just saw her yesterday in California
Oh, how
because
lovely.
we choose to keep in touch with her because she was that great to us. But I share all this to say that, you know, decreasing that stigma is so important. I mean, so many families, like you said, Isaac, they don't get help because they think that people are going to treat them differently or their child differently. And that's why we raise awareness to show families, to show society that individuals with different abilities are so much more capable of doing things than we give them credit for if we would just give them the
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So now I know why I couldn't have children. It's because I was meant to have Isabella. We were meant to have Isabella and do what I'm doing now. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I found my purpose. I found my purpose in life. And it's
Oh, that's
cool
so cool.
because
Yeah.
it's amazing. I'm in awe of it every day. And what's really awesome is with my background that I have in broadcast journalism and Legal Shield and small business administration for over 20 years, being able to pull all that experience together and take those skills and apply it as a director of community and corporate outreach. It just all comes, it's just like you said, you still can't believe sometimes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love
Yeah.
it. I love what I do. It's
Um,
awesome.
so final question for you. Uh,
Okay.
um, and this is my favorite question. I've asked this to a lot of people. I probably will ask this question to every person I talk to on this interview. But what is something you wish you would have known at the start of your journey? And that could be anything for you, like at the start of the SOA, your motherhood, before that. Just what do you got?
You know, honestly, I think that if I knew what I know now, whether as it relates to autism or whether Isabella was going to be like she is, or what it's like to raise a child, I honestly don't think I would change anything, and I'll tell you why. Because if I did know then what I know now, I don't think I would be as excited as I am to be on this journey. Because as because I learned as I went along and Isabella grew, I got the experiences that other families are going to be going through, and I can relate to them.
Yeah.
Because if I knew all that stuff in the beginning, it wouldn't be as relatable for me. I wouldn't get as excited. I wouldn't, I would have done things differently. I would have. And I don't want it to be different.
Right.
And I just, because I love where I'm at. I love the place in my life where I'm at.
I like it. Yeah. And that's, again, that's just, I think it comes from being happy with where you're at and loving what you do. And your whole experience and existence has led up to now. And we get to have this conversation, and we get to help people. We get to teach people, educate, and like make a difference. And yeah, I agree. That was a good answer.
That's, I'll just share real quick. One of the things that I tell a number of students that I mentor in different educational institutions is make sure, and I tell this to my niece, she's 19, make sure that, we go to school to find out what it is that we like, what we're good at, to gain skills. But in the end, if you don't like what you do, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're not going to be happy, at least for me. And so I share that with them because I want them to think about that, because they may think that they reached their goal. Like, have you seen the movie Soul?
I did. I
The
actually
kid.
I recently saw that.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I was trying to, okay, what's the moral of the story? What's the moral? It's like, sometimes you think that you just need X, Y, and Z to be happy. And that's not it at all. That's not it at all. So if you have to go out and find out what does make you happy, then do that, because it doesn't matter what you do unless you like what you're doing. Love what you're doing.
Even
if
better.
you're that fortunate. Yep.
All right. Let's end it on that extremely high note. Thank you so much for joining me, talking with me. And then again, I'm just so happy I got to know you. Like you're awesome.
Oh, Isaac, you're awesome too. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having me today. You have an incredible rest of your week.
You too. And thanks everyone else for listening. We'll see you next time.